Hey, welcome to Speechless. We're glad to have you here. We're live from the SCC studios in White Bear Lake, also live over SPNN in St. Paul. Where we are not live is in Maplewood. And unfortunately, the Maplewood residents don't get to watch us anymore as the city council tries to spend your money where you used to get another 7 channels with a lot of different programming, and now you're down to 1 channel and paying the same amount for it. That's the government for you, especially the socialists there on the Maplewood City Council. They think they know better what type of information you should be seeing. Of course, Maplewood, you're not seeing this now because this program, for some reason, did not pass the governmental favor list process, screening. I've been censored from Maplewood. They did not like what people on local cable TV were saying about Maplewood, even though they can have their own shows and say anything else they want. But if you're in Maplewood, you can watch my show on YouTube. It usually gets up there, be up there by Friday morning. Usually it's there late Thursday night, early Friday morning. So youtube.com, is that a / or a backslash? Forward / Speechless MN. All right. And you can watch this show. So if you're in Maplewood, go to the internet, we're on, and you can find out what's going on. Okay, today, a school board meeting was held in St. Paul, Minnesota, and a hockey game broke out. It's hockey season, playoffs, kind of a riot ended up happening down there. We're going to talk about that. A lot of different aspects to that, and I've shown video on how I was treated and how Bob Zick's been treated down there. When we just go a second or 2 overtime, let's see what happens to these other people. When they go a lot overtime and then actually start chanting and disrupting the meeting. And you'll see. Also, we're going to talk about the civics education bill that was introduced in the Senate and the House. I wasn't surprised to see who the authors were. Then we got updates on the Sandra Grazzini-Rucki case. Of course, 2020, that's a divorce case, where her attorney, Michelle McDonald, who ran for the Minnesota Supreme Court, was put in handcuffs for taking a picture in the courtroom, which wasn't illegal, and the type of treatment she received. It'll be interesting to notice the difference between that and somebody who's had multiple order for protections on them and how they get treated, and an arrest warrant out on them. It's just kind of, and how they get treated with the arrest warrant. It's kind of bizarre here. And then judicial elections, get ready for them. They're coming. There's got a Supreme Court justice, a whole bunch of the appellate court justice. Typically you're looking about 1/3 of the justices in the appellate court being elected every 2 years or up for election. And now it's probably 43%, it seems. I didn't do the math on it. And in Ramsey County, there's a whole lot. Out of the 29 there's a whole lot of judges up for elections. So we'll get into that a little bit. And then if we have time, we will talk about the Supreme Court case with the health care issues that have been going on and who gets to, whether you still have religious freedoms if you're an organization, whether you want to provide contraceptive coverage that kills the baby. So anyway, a lot to cover, and there was one other thing I was going to, in Maplewood, I forgot to get the video. I was going to do it, but their Chick-fil-A restaurant is coming to Maplewood, and there was a design review board meeting last Tuesday night, and guess what happened? The head of the design review board had to get his politically comments in there about the ownership of Chick-fil-A. Never mind that Chick-fil-A hires homosexuals, hires anybody, has a great work ethic, pays their people above minimum wage, does a whole lot of good for the community and people in tough situations. Never mind all that. He's got to say, hey, the owner's basically a bigot. Well, I think the design review board chairman is a religious bigot. So, when you're in these governmental offices, appointed positions, you're to uphold the Constitution, not destroy it. And I think the chair, we'll watch that video next week, if I remember to get it done. Okay, let's go to the St. Paul School Board meeting. And this is visitors' presentation, and there was to be a protest outside by teachers, for teachers, to get the school district to support their teachers and the violence and the lack of discipline that's going on in the school. So we will, I don't know how big of a rally there was. I've kind of heard that there were people there, but they really didn't protest. But then people from Black Lives Matters or the Equity partnership or program inside of the St. Paul Public Schools were there. So it's interesting that the teachers were outside, where they should be protesting, but the others were inside and rioting inside. So we're going to see some of it here. So let's start out here, because the teachers have been going down to the school board and complaining, and so now we're getting some parents coming and complaining about how their children had been treated. So the first parent there, Ms. Montgomery, I think it was either Ann or Susan Montgomery. Let's hear what she has to say.
Susan Montgomery, and this is my son, Tay Clinton. He is a student at St. Paul Public Schools. And this is what we'd like to say. My son, his side of the story is, at Linwood Monroe Arts Plus, he is sick of discrimination, isolation, segregation, removals, Columbus Day, and long colonization units, lies, yelling, police, insensitivity, cruel staff, racism, injuries, bullying, talks of sexist behavior to students, guilt, shame, lack of cultural support in Black history, bad food or dirty lunch trays, bus drivers slamming on the brakes and pulling over often, even getting in fights themselves with students or other motorists, aides joking about White Lives Matter, making threats to call police or the principal, forcing or judging religion, and writing up students. Me, the mother, I am sick of our kids being dehumanized, discredited, disciplined, uneducated, retaliated against, and staff microaggressive attitude or behavior towards our kids. There is no respect or compassion for single parents, disabled families, low-income families, and the kids of color. I am exhausted with repeating myself, trying to be nice to people who don't care, filing complaints, whether it's formal or informal, coming in for multiple meetings, babysitting activities, having my concerns ignored or delayed. I think that there is more respect for these teachers that are tenured than our students. Also, there is more forgiveness for staff that are unprofessional and untrained. There is no room for urban trauma, special education, and basic needs for consistency and structure to have a positive school day. Where is the kindness, patience, and hope for our students? There is no accountability in this district. Everyone is spending time focusing on the few negative events that have happened recently and what looks good to the media. This district has teachers who fear kids like my son just because of their skin color. Imagine how that feels. Some families have language barriers or lack of receiving important information. Some kids are scared to speak up. On several occasions, my son couldn't come to school because he feared staff, violence, and bullies. He has contemplated suicide on several occasions. Our kids need to feel safe, and no one is truly protecting them. Most students just want to learn and be treated fairly. If you don't like our kids, do not teach in our schools.
All right. Now, this is what I call name calling. Now, granted, you got 2 minutes before the school board. How can you get facts in? So a lot of name calling took place there, and of course getting an applause for name calling, that's going to happen. But what does that mean? I don't know how to process what she said due to lack of evidence. Okay, not that there isn't evidence, I just don't know how anybody could process. The best thing I can come away with what she said was, there might be a problem here. I'm going to need to further dig into it and find out what's going on. If this type of abuse is taking place, these type of allegations, then there could be a problem. Now, some of the name calling related to, what was one thing, long colonization units, you don't know what she was talking about. But some of the name calling, it looked to me like it dealt with a difference of opinion as to the past history of the United States, and a parent not liking what the student's being taught about the history of the United States. That is going to happen in a public school setting. And the best thing you can do is send your child to there's a number of things you can do, but send them to a school that teaches what you want them to be taught. That's one thing. On the other hand, what most people do is they sit down with their kids and say, and I think she does this, as the child will end up verbalizing his own issues with the school. And it sounds like she has sat down with her child and explained, here's what's really going on. Okay? Now, most Christians that have their kids in public school, most parents have to go and re-explain things, especially when you're dealing with evolutionaryism, the religion of evolution. And you have to go back and explain, no, here's what I believe is your parents, and here's questions to ask your teacher, here's scientific issues to raise for them, and get a discussion going. That's one thing. To be demanding as a student, no, that's not the way it is. You don't have to be demanding. You can learn to ask questions. Now, it seems like Susan Montgomery there that spoke is a very demanding person. And, maybe she's right on some of these things. Maybe she's right on one of them, and she's wrong on all the rest. Maybe she's right on all of them, but wrong on one of them. All of them but one. Who knows? So we don't know. With the lack of evidence that's being presented, this could be a series of red herrings. It could be propaganda. We don't know until we get the actual examples of what took place. So I wouldn't want to discredit someone for what they said just because they're angry or because they end up acting out. I would want to find out what's going on, okay? Now we're going to hear her son Clinton next speak, and you can tell that he has been trained. I don't have any problem with that. I mean, you sit down and see kids trained on that know every president, and their wives, and what state and city they were born in, that are 3 years old. They're trained, okay? You see 12-year-olds giving great presentations because they've memorized the script and can present it well. You see that, and it's good. So I don't mind training. It's just how much of this is real versus how much is taught. And we see, though, that the mother has taught the child what to say, how to say it, and you'll see that in this clip. And that doesn't bother me one bit. What could bother me is that this mother, because of her attitude, is destroying the child herself. And now, will there be consequences from that? Who knows? But let's watch the clip, and you guys can call in and give me your opinion. So let's watch Clinton here.
Hello, I'm Tay Clinton, and I go to Linwood Monroe Arts Plus, and I don't enjoy it. The teachers there are very disrespectful. Don't help me if, say, for an example, if I'm doing my work or my peers are doing my work, they get yelled at if they get a problem wrong for no reason, and then teachers would scream at us or take us for private conversations, and I don't think you should take us in a hall for private conversations. And otherwise, teachers, bus aides, you got to think about this. The teachers are not around when that's happening. So, really, not all of the kids are going to speak up. But I figure I have to speak up, and I have to be the bigger and better person. And I am going to tell I'm going to tell you guys what happened to me. I got bullied by a teacher on my bus. She was yelling at me, screaming, and throwing a fit. She told me that white lives matter, all lives matter, and I'm like, no, they don't. And then she started complaining. And then because I was talking my needs, I was saying, well, why are you gonna yell at me that white lives matter? And then she said, well, I'm gonna call the cops on you. And then I have this all on video. So if you wanna come up to me, if you wanna see the video, you can come up to me anytime.
Good job, buddy. Okay.
And you guys should seriously pay attention to what I'm saying, because the last time I came, you guys didn't listen to me.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. A number of comments on this. Again, a lot of name calling, but he's describing teachers that are yelling and screaming. And, why are they doing that? Don't know. Are the kids acting out? Don't know. It could be the teacher. Now, we're going to see some videos of teachers saying the school board doesn't support them, and that may be the case. We're going to see, and here's the deal. Every situation has to be dealt with as it is. It may be a teacher's problem. We know there are teacher pedophiles. We know there's teachers that sexually exploit kids. That's happened. They're sitting in jail. St. Paul had a janitor that was in grade school that was sexually harassing kids, boys in the bathroom, I believe. Well, what happened? The school district ignored it. And then finally, there was enough of an outcry that something took place. So we need to listen to the children, and we need to listen to the parents, and we need to listen to the teachers. Okay, does that mean that all teachers are pedophiles and take a sexual advantage over kids? No, not at all. Does that mean that all kids are saints? No, not at all. It doesn't mean that. Each situation needs to be dealt with, and when we have this socialistic aspect of trying to lump everybody as being the same in the same bracket, in the same category, once one person fails, once one person has a problem, that doesn't mean everybody does, okay? And so because there's a bad teacher doesn't mean that all teachers are bad. Because there's a bad student doesn't mean all teachers, all students are bad. You know, so you do have to take it one by one. Now, here's an example, and we're going to have a teacher speak 2 times down, but he brings up the issue. You're in a no-win situation, and when this young Ty Clinton talked, he talked about no child should be taken out in the hallway and have a private conversation. Well, here's a situation. If the teacher is in the school classroom and has that conversation in front of the kids, that could be embarrassing to that child, and that teacher will get in trouble for embarrassing the child in front of the class. Okay, and so where a teacher can take out in the hallway and say, hey, I'm just warning you here, between you and me, you know, next time this takes place, you're going to the principal's office or whatever. Of course, does the teacher get the support from the principal's office? Doesn't sound like it. May or may not happen. And then the child knows what they can get away with. So, I mean, some of these situations, there's no-win situations, but there should be a clear policy set in place so that the teacher knows how to handle a situation. So was he bullied by a teacher? I don't know. He's got a video. You know, I'd like to see the video. And I'll try to get that video so we can see it. If what he's saying is happening to kids, and another parent got up that we're not going to show for time issues, got up and said, you know, my son, I back teachers, but my son's saying, hey, you know, there's no communication. These teachers just yell at you for no reason. You just be standing there and they just start yelling at you, you know, and the implication was the teachers are swearing at the students, calling them names that are not politically correct, a whole bunch of stuff. And the kids aren't doing anything to deserve this. Well, I mean, that's taking place. That's a huge issue. So we're in a state of chaos in the St. Paul Public Schools that nobody really, well, people know what's going on, the people that are there, but providing evidence, people stepping up, having videos, you know, we talk about body cameras for police officers. That's a whole nother issue that we talked about before. But should there be cameras in the classroom and audio sound? Well, I'm sure the teachers aren't going to like that. I'm sure the students aren't going to like that either. So we have, you know, should there be cameras in the hallway? Well, I think there should be, you know, and because it tells the story. But there can be a problem with videos that they can be edited to remove the provocation that occurs before the clip starts. That can happen. But, you know, in the court of law, that would be explained. You know, something happened beforehand. You know, so there's no perfect situation here. Now, I think he didn't describe the situation very well when he said, when the teacher, the bus aide said, white lives matter, and Clinton said, no, they don't. I think in the context, he may have misunderstood that. If he believes that white lives don't matter, then his mom is teaching him something bad. But that's kind of part of this message that's going out with Black Lives Matter. If you say all lives matter, you've offended Black Lives Matter for some reason. And I just don't get it. I've heard the explanation, but I don't get it. And I couldn't tell you what their explanation is because I don't get it, you know, because I'm kind of all lives matter person. Everybody should be treated with respect. And, you know, you arrest people, take away their liberty when they don't treat other people with respect. So if you also heard his comment there, I was talking my needs. So that is a language to saying, teaching a child how to process and how to communicate and verbalize what's going on inside of you, and for some reason he was feeling that he didn't matter, so he may have been saying on the bus, Black Lives Matter, and trying to get the kids, rallied up and say Black Lives Matter, and the teacher may have said, well, White Lives Matter too. And so in the context of what his mom was saying, about, well, it's really not, it's about Black lives, because Black lives are so suppressed that you really can't talk about White Lives Matter and do justice to Black Lives Matter. I don't know, but he's definitely trained. Well, now we get a teacher, and we'll show this video, a teacher making comments about how she feels she was being treated in St. Paul. So let's play this.
My name is Stephanie Christopher. I became an employee of St. Paul Public Schools in August of 2007. I resigned my position on February 8th due to workplace harassment from my supervisor and her assistants, which created a hostile work environment that started in the fall of this school year. After repeated incidents of harassment over several months, my supervisor subjected me to a 20-minute screaming verbal assault in the presence of my coworkers. In tears, I called HR and I pleaded with them to remove me from the building. I was told that if I left without the approval of the person who had just verbally assaulted me, it would be grounds for termination. To further my distress, HR told me that they couldn't allow me to take an unpaid leave without the approval of the supervisor who had just verbally assaulted me. So there was no protection from my abuser and no viable resolution offered to me by HR. This leaves employees with few choices, except being demoted, take FMLA, retire early, or resign to avoid the mental and emotional anguish caused by the hostile work environment. It's no small thing to accept being without employment at any age, but once a person is over 50, it's terrifying. I'm here to add my voice to that of a large group of former and current employees who have been harassed in the workplace. It is the belief that this harassment is being done to rid the district of higher paid teachers and staff, teachers that have gone back to school and obtained master's degrees to better themselves and to provide a higher level of teaching. Staff and teachers who have never had a bad review suddenly find themselves on the receiving end of a review that contradicts all past reviews. This triggers a personal improvement plan that all employees know is really a termination plan. Many of these employees have been subjected to similar harassment and have encountered the same indifference and lack of support in reaching a resolution in order to save their jobs. When incidents of harassment are reported to HR, the charges are dismissed and the grievances are denied. The employees are left feeling helpless and outnumbered with no place to turn. This needs to stop. District employees should be able to count on HR for protection from harassment. Once the abuse is reported, we should not have to deal with further harassment and retaliation from supervisors. Following the chain of command and reporting problems to the district, as I did, the victim is further victimized by this department whose function is supposed to be offering a fair hearing. Human Resources.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
So here she was giving some evidence, still 2 minutes, a lot of name calling. And so things would have to be looked into further. But this whole process is just reminded me of the judiciary, this review process, which is about reviewing in order to terminate the employee and get them in this process to, the teachers know that this is the process to get rid of you as a teacher. So it just kind of reminded me of the judiciary where if you run against a sitting judge in an election, you're going to start losing your cases. You're going to be harassed by the judges, all of them. Some of them actually say, hey, if I'm an attorney and my client's there, the judge will say, hey, you sure you want this attorney as your client? Because he ran for judge, and you're probably not going to win this case. So there's these unspoken rules in the judiciary and in the St. Paul School District. These are the unspoken rules that everybody knows about. There's this process here that is taking place. Screaming and yelling, what's going on? There's a lot of yelling going on, evidently, in St. Paul Public Schools. not to say just about the fights. Well, we're going to get to something in a little bit, but it's really about how people are trained to deal with conflict. You know, and unfortunately, if one person's not trained to deal with conflict, the one that is just can be blown out of the water even if you're trained, because you're just not going to have a conversation, or you're not going to be communicating. Well, let's see this next teacher, and as he spoke, then the fights broke out. So let's see not the fights, but the screaming and yelling. These are people, just prepare for this, the people that were arguing and complaining about screaming and yelling, guess what they're going to do? Yeah, they're going to start screaming and yelling. All right, let's watch the video.
Andrus. I am a classroom teacher. I work as a reserve teacher in multiple school districts, and after seeing what I have been reading both on the blogs online here, which I have not seen all of, and what I've seen in the paper, I implore you to support your teachers. Teachers do not get the support that they need in the classroom. Absolutely. There are a couple things. I'm from the land of Humphrey. 2 minutes doesn't even allow me to clear my throat here. But I'm very supportive of Mr. Olson's special ed class here.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you could keep your comments to yourselves, other people listen to you, please.
I have never met a teacher anywhere that wouldn't give the shirt off of his or her back for his kids. Anywhere. That's why we are in this business. We are held to a standard of perfection, and most anybody in a position of responsibility and authority are held to a standard of perfection that no human being can meet. We have had this for the better part of 40 plus years, since 1968, with the anti-war movement. People who threw rotten tomatoes at anybody in a position of authority, who rejected society and ran amok with their own lives and pointed fingers at somebody else and said, "You're all wrong." And that attitude continues today. Today, and since that time, we have something called political correctness, which is a form of censorship.
Hey, please, come on, everybody.
May I speak?
Everybody,
Ladies,
please,
ladies,
May I speak?
come on. Folks, please.
You see what is happening here?
okay.
Only certain ideas. May I speak, please?
Let him finish. Let him finish his comments, please. You all had a chance to. You finished your comments. Hey, look, you had your chance to talk. Can you please? This isn't helping. I'm going to have to ask you to. I'm going to have to ask you to sit down, please. I'm going to have to ask you to sit down, please. Okay? All right. I'm going to call a recess right now. Everybody take a deep breath. We'll come back for the meeting. Thank you very much. Share your comments, please, in written form. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry?
Wow. Now, what's interesting here is, first of all, there was recess. The camera guy should have left the camera on. And he did leave the mics up for quite a while, so you can hear the noise in the background, but you should have left the mics on to see what was going on there. So, when visitor presentation, 2 minutes, you get to speak. Now, if I go, and I've been down there, I speak quite a bit. Bob Zick's been down there for years. If you go over that 2 minutes by a little bit, they got a police walking up to escort you out there, mostly because they don't like what you're saying. okay? They don't want you to go over that amount. The lady, the first lady, Susan Montgomery, went over her time slot. They just let her finish her sentence, and she's actually about 15 seconds over. And, you know, that was okay. You know, other people went over. That was okay. You know, and so they got their 2 minutes, and now you heard them screaming, when do I get to talk? And, you know, and we don't get to say anything, and just screaming and yelling, okay? So what's really going on? It's just, and where were the police officers? Now, I heard there was a lot of police officers there, but you didn't see them in the room escorting people away from the podium once they reached their 2 minutes. I mean, I'm serious. I mean, if it's 2:01, they're walking towards you. Okay? They want if you're not done, they're walking towards you and they will escort you out. Didn't happen yesterday. Okay? And so the people claiming being upset about teachers screaming and yelling, guess what they were doing? Screaming and yelling. And so, and, you know, everybody else gets to follow the rules, but evidently they don't have to. Should be disorderly conduct charges brought out there. Nobody was treated unfairly at that meeting. So let's see. Now, one thing the substitute teachers, he's in a number of different districts, he was saying, you know, support the teachers. Yeah, support the teachers, support the students. He was talking about the treatment the teachers were getting, which was not good from the St. Paul Public Schools. You know, and he made a comment, and this is a problem, and everybody does it, but people make generalized comments that are kind of universals. I don't know a teacher that wouldn't give the shirt off his back for a student. Anybody go through the education system, how many of us know that there's plenty of teachers that wouldn't give the shirt off their back, okay? There's plenty of them that wouldn't. You know, they're there to teach. You know, there's tons that would. There's tons that are so helpful. But for many, it's just a job, okay? So we can't have this universal language. And we all do it. It's hard not to do. And we got to just recognize when it's done. So teachers are always right. You know, students are always right. No, it's not true in either situation. So in St. Paul schools, though, it's getting so bad that pretty soon I don't think they're going to be able to have enough money to pay teachers. People won't want the job. And then where are you going to have education? Well, hopefully that will force us to a situation where, you know, our Minnesota Constitution says public schools, got to have them, educate on we need a well-educated public in order to keep a Republican form of government. That's the purpose of our education, and we don't have to have it the way it's scheduled now. We can have the money go with the child, the parent chooses the school, so one parent can say, hey, I want these values taught to my child, that's what will be taught over here. Another school may teach different values, but those parents can send their kids there. The main thing is, though, each school has to teach the Republican form of government and the importance of that. And so our kids can be well educated in order to articulate that. Which comes to an issue of a bill that was introduced in the House of Representatives and the Senate. Wasn't surprised to see the authors, but it's a bill, it's put on by the Joe Foss Institute. Let's put that screen up here. The Joe Foss Institute has an initiative that all students in all 50 states have to take a civics test, and there's a website there, but it's called the Civics Education Initiative, that every student has to pass what every person wanting to be a citizen of the United States has to pass, the civics test. The 100-question test about America, and what we're about, what our country's about. If you want to become a citizen of the United States, you got to take this test. They want every high school student, in order to graduate, to take this test. You got to get an 80% in order to pass. The same as anybody else wanting to be a citizen here. Now, it's already passed in 8 states, and a number of states, about half the remaining states, have bills in the state that would get it passed, and the remaining states don't have anything there. But the bill number here for the Senate file is 2974. That's being sponsored by Senator Hall. And on the House file, 2631 is being sponsored. Chief author is Peggy Scott and Representative Slocum. In my looking over this, that is a really good start. That's a good start. And so many things in the legislature, they're good starts, okay? Or this could be a good start. The issue that I think is really for our own kids, it should be higher than that. It should be talking about Robert's Rules of Order. It should be, they should know how to get a bill through the House of Representatives. I mean, they should know that. They should understand it. They should know how to run a meeting. Because to me, that's why, because our students and our parents don't understand that, and our education has failed, and their number one job is to have well-educated people in order to preserve the republic, because that's not happening. That's why you see what's going on down at the St. Paul school boards. These people don't respect the process. They don't respect other people's time. And they were given just as much time as others, and they realized, hey, not in that room do we disrupt the room. We had our time to speak. Now we go outside and we do our lobbying, and we do it peacefully. Our Constitution doesn't give a person right to go into a meeting and be disorderly. Our Constitution is very clear. You have the right to peacefully assemble. Okay, and I watching the press all the time, I never see them talk about the peaceful assembly taking place. So anyway, it's a good start. Go to that website and take the test. See how you do. See if you'd pass the civics test. At some point in time, probably tomorrow, I'll go take the test. I just found out about it today. All right, real quickly on the judicial elections that are coming up. We always talk about the presidential election, and we forget there's also local elections and local candidates to endorse. Bob Cardinal got endorsed for 43A side, which is parts of White Bear Lake, Matamidi, I believe, parts of Willany, parts of Maplewood are in his section. So he got endorsed there for the Republican Party. So on the judiciary side and the Supreme Court, one person is up for election. That's Natalie Hudson. Okay, there were going to be 2, but Christopher Dietzen decided to retire 3 months early so that a governor can appoint for him. Again, Dietzen was a Republican appointed judge, not elected, but appointed by Tim Pawlenty, and Dietzen resigns because he's for appointments rather than elections, and he resigns under a Democrat governor. So he's given up that seat to the Democrats and the Democrat judicial philosophy. It's just what happens, okay? But he stabbed the Republican Party in the back by doing it. At least he could have had an open election so the people can decide. But, you know, he's one of these elitists that doesn't like that. What's interesting, and next week I'll have all these names listed out. In the appellate court, there's 19 seats in the appellate court. And we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 out of 19, almost half of the judges are up for election. And the chief judge, Cleary, he's resigning as of October 31st, 2016. Again, for what reason, I don't know, but then somebody will be appointed rather than an election taking place by the people. And then that judge will sit there on the appellate court for 2 years until they have to come up for election. But let's see, out of the rest, and I didn't count him as one up for election because it's going to be appointed. So that's 10 out of 19, so over half the appellate court is up for elections or be replaced. But out of these 10, plenty, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 of these are plenty appointees, 1 Purpich and 2 Dayton appointees. So I'll get that list for you so you can see it. I would venture to say that every single plenty appointee will have a DFL judge running against them. And you won't know it. There will be no DFL endorsed judge that won't be talked about because the DFL doesn't endorse judges. They just have the unions and all that. And the Republican Party, although they're for elections, you know, Chair Downey came out and he says he's against judicial elections, he's going to try to change the Constitution. Well, the majority of the Republican Party is in favor of judicial elections. You know, so, and Keith Downey has been fighting against this as long as he's been in office, playing some really, really dirty tricks in the process. Like he won't give out the list of delegates to the Judicial Chairs Committee so that they can call meetings. Won't do it, you know, but it's there. They have to do it, but they won't. So it's again, it's a battle of elite type people that think they know everything and want to have their control. This isn't any different in the DFL party either. And they want to have their control. And it just doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. Now in Ramsey County, and next week I'll bring in Washington County, but in Ramsey County we have out of 29 seats, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 seats open. So about 40% of the seats are up for election. And most of these are Dayton and Ventura appointed. There's only 2 people there, Mark Ireland and Judith Tilson, that got into their 2 got in there by actually being elected, which is interesting. And only 1 plenty appointee is there. So, hey, I'm looking for people to run for judge. If you want to run for judge of the appellate court, Supreme Court, or the district court in Ramsey County, let me know. I'll hook you up, get you connected with who you need to be connected with, so get the word out. Even if you're a sitting judge. But we want to see these judges challenged. We want an election. We want to have the people's voice in this process. And I can get you to the people that can help you out. So, okay. Well, I think this will probably be the last piece we'll talk about here tonight. No, it won't be. We got one other thing. I want to bring you a little update on the Sandra Grazzini case and a couple of things. This is a divorce case where the Supreme Court candidate, Michelle McDonald, was Sandra Grazzini-Rucki's attorney. The court's been playing games, telling them she hasn't she doesn't have hearings when she has hearings, so she doesn't try to get her not to show up. And then even when they have the hearing scheduled and they want her to be there, they change the time to earlier so she's not there. That's happened 3 times where it's been scheduled and the judge decides the case beforehand. I'm going to get the transcripts of one of these things. The judge actually goes and says, what I've been reported, said, when the court time for the scheduled time shows up, the judge said, oh, and this is Judge Canning, retired judge out of Scott County. In my mind, a very bad judge from everything I know about him. Name calling. Here's what he said, according to what I've been told. He said this: oh, I didn't think you were going to show up, so I issued my order. What's that about? Well, we're here and it's our regular scheduled time, so let's do the hearing and actually have it. No, he's not going to have part of that. That's what I've been told, okay? I will have to get the transcript to see what actually took place and get the exact wordage. Did he say all that off the record? So that, I mean, there wasn't a hearing, so how would this be recorded? Okay? And if there was a transcript, I very much believe that the transcript would have been altered. So there's a condition here, the transcript may not have it anyway, but since the order was already issued, there wasn't a hearing, so there wouldn't be a transcript. How do they get all this on record? You know, that's going to be the big thing. Except for the timing aspect of this, when the order came out before the hearing took place. Now, why did he say, I didn't think you would show up? Why did he say that? Sandra has made all her court-appointed hearings, except for the ones where they changed the time on her to be sooner than the scheduled time, the day of the hearing. It's just unbelievable. I just can't believe that this type of stuff is happening. But here's another oddity that came out in this case. This is a police report. Now, Sandra's husband, David Rucki, had a warrant out, a misdemeanor warrant for his arrest. Now, a misdemeanor warrant means you still get arrested and they can come and knock on your door and come pick you up between the hours of 8 a.m. and 10 p.m. After 10 p.m. and up to 8 a.m., they can't arrest you. You get a good night's sleep. Misdemeanor warrant, you know, usually a misdemeanor is not a serious issue, but you still get arrested, okay? And then, but you can get arrested if you're out after 10 o'clock or before 8 o'clock in the p.m. or before 8 a.m. in the morning. You can be driving to work or just driving around, coming home from a hockey game, and if you get pulled over because the light's out or you're speeding, they see you got a warrant out for your arrest, they can pick you up. The time doesn't matter if you're out in public. But if you're home, they got to leave you alone. Okay, so he served, this officer, Nick Stevens, he was going to the home there to serve a misdemeanor warrant. You saw the red pickup with the driver's license at the cul-de-sac. He had the warrant confirmed. He followed, then what he did, he pulled over the vehicle, talked to him, and the warrant was confirmed, and he followed David Rucki to U.S. Bank where he obtained the $285 cash that was paid as a fine. And then he says, I completed the Lakeville Police Department bail receipt and Rucki was given a copy. The fine monies and paperwork were placed in the Lakeville Police Department reception locker drawer. So you got a warrant out. You're supposed to be arrested. He lets David Rucki go to the bank in his own vehicle, get the money, and pay the fine and lets them go home. Well, we don't know. It doesn't say whether he went home or not. My understanding was he was not arrested. But you issue a warrant, you're arrested, okay, if you get caught and you go through the process. So is David Rucki getting special treatment? Another big issue that came out in this case is a lot of his case files, if you do a search, and we're seeing here 20 case files. If you do a search today, I did a search, I found 13 of them. But the ones, 7 of them weren't on the search, but if I plugged in the numbers, I found them. Just something weird. You know, all these were order for protection violations, and, well, there's more to the story. I want to close with this, and it's what I call Resurrection Day. I don't call it Easter because people get all crazy that we're celebrating Estar and various other things, spring stuff. Now, really, we're that late into it. Well, anyway, happy Passover and Feast of Unleavened Bread. And happy Resurrection Day. So, we're out of time. We got to go. So, I would have wanted to read John 10 in the Bible, verses 7 through 18, about Jesus being the Good Shepherd and his sheep knowing his voice. You can read it for yourself. John 10, 7 through 18. Remember, if you don't stand up for other people's liberties, who's going to stand up for yours? And good men don't do nothing. God bless. Have a great Resurrection Day.
I see that you're long gone. The days go by, the forest sets on fire.